This video contains major manga spoilers for the upcoming 2 movies of Demon Slayer. Watch at your own risk. One of the main reasons I love Demon Slayer so much is the amount of times that I'm genuinely weeping over the characters. In my honest opinion, Demon Slayer really does its characters super well, where you feel emotionally connected to them, so when emotional things happen to them, you feel like you're right along there with them. Because this is such an integral part of the story, today we are going to be ranking my top 5 most emotional moments in Demon Slayer as a whole, along with a few honorable mentions. And I had to throw the honorable mentions in because there are a lot of tear-jerking moments in this story, and this doesn't even cover every single time I cry. Before we dive into the video, however, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We just recently hit 80,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Thank you so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and help me reach my goal of 100K before the end of 2025. Also, this is a super subjective list based entirely off of my own human emotions, so keep in mind my list might be very different from yours, but if you have a different list, let me know in the comments. So let's briefly touch on my honorable mentions. And again, I'm putting a warning once again. There's gonna be some that have been animated, but a lot of these are from the manga that has yet to be animated. So if you are not a manga reader and you don't want to get spoiled, you're gonna have to put a pin in this video and check back after you've read the manga or the 2 movies have come out. Our first honorable mention is Akaza's backstory. Now, this is definitely an emotional moment for me. However, I lean on the side of I never forgave Akaza for what he did. I am very, very appreciative of the story explaining where he came from, and it gave me a new way of viewing Akaza that made me really love him, and honestly it made him one of my favorite characters just in general because of how well his story closes up. It is a very, very hard backstory. It is probably the most emotional of all the demons, and it makes me cry every single time I've watched it and every single time I've read it. The only reason it's just an honorable mention is because Akaza is not a character that I spent the entire story loving, so I didn't feel like I went through a journey with him as much as I did with a lot of the other characters and the things that happened to them, which is why it's an honorable mention and not in my top 5. My next honorable mention is Tanjiro running away from his family in his dream. This almost made my top 5, and it irks me that this never gets discussed because everyone always focuses very heavily on the second half of the movie with Mugen Train because of the Rengoku versus Akaza fight, which is one of the greatest moments in the anime. I will give credit where credit is due. However, the first half of the movie, when Tanjiro is going through that dream and he has to run away from his family a second time because he has to accept that they're actually gone, and then his little brother running after him and saying, "Don't leave us behind." Mind you, Tanjiro is 15 years old, and he's taking this on like a full-grown adult, better than most of us full-grown adults would ever take on a situation like that. I once saw someone say that Tanjiro didn't look back because he knew that they weren't real, and while I think that's partially the case, I think that Tanjiro never looked back because he knew if he did, he wouldn't be able to leave, and that makes it so much more difficult to watch. If you notice, he never looks back once they show up. He runs away without looking back, and that's... Anyway, that came very close to my top 5 because that one gets me as a Tanjiro stan. The final honorable mention that I'm going to bring up is Obanai and Mitsuri's deaths. The only reason this one isn't in the top 5 is simply because it makes me emotional, but it's kind of bittersweet for them because Obanai wanted to die during that battle. He knew that he was never gonna really feel like he belonged with Mitsuri, and I actually prefer that she died with him rather than having to live on without him. When it comes to romance, if it's one person dies while the other lives on, that's way more tear-jerking for me than when they die together because it does make me cry. I'm very emotional over it, that's why it's an honorable mention. But compared to some of the other character deaths that we will be discussing in the top 5, that one just gets me a little less emotional because I'm almost happy that they're together in the afterlife and when they get reincarnated. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about number 5 most emotional moment for me, and that is Rengoku's death. A lot of people say this one actually didn't really get to them because at the end of the day, we didn't spend that much time with Rengoku. We really only met him in that movie, maybe a little bit beforehand, and it wasn't that good of an impression, but he grew on the audience so incredibly fast. The main reason that I actually cry over this is really Tanjiro's reaction to the death. death. And while I will say it till I'm blue in the face that Tanjiro's emotional reaction is not simply brought on because he's sad Rengoku is dying, it is the catalyst that pushes him into that emotional state. Rengoku's death is also the catalyst of, in my opinion, the second half of the story, really, where we start to really get into the nitty-gritty. It tells us that no, not everyone in the story is going to be safe, and that even the strongest characters that seem to have some of the most kind qualities are not gonna make it. I'm not gonna lie though, every time Rengoku says, "I believe in your little sister," that's where I absolutely lose it, because there's something so beautiful about the fact that Rengoku was able to accept her, even though at the end of season 1, he was ready to execute her and Tanjiro easily without even the master showing up. And I mean, I have Set Your Heart Ablaze tattooed on my body at this point. I think it goes to show how emotional this moment is for me. The music, the reactions of the characters around, and just losing a character that we did fall in love with in such a short period of time brings Rengoku's death to number 5 on my list. Number 4 is Gyomei's death and the orphans that he took care of being there to greet him. Specifically that second part. Gyomei as a character, I always felt like there could be more to him that would have made me love him a lot more. As it stands, he's pretty low on my Hashira list. While I love him a lot, I love all 9 Hashira with my whole heart, he tends to find himself near the bottom because sometimes I feel like there could have been more exploration of his character. However, when we see him start to pass away and the orphans are there to greet him and telling him that they're sorry, that they were trying to find ways to help him fight the demon, not run away, and then he dies with a smile. Okay, this was a bad idea. This video, where are the tissues? When it comes to things that make me emotional, usually a character's death itself doesn't make me emotional. It's the reaction of the characters around them and them getting to interact with people that maybe have passed on before them. And the fact that all of these orphans, save one, you know, Kaigaku was kind of not there for reasons, made his death that much more emotional because he finally found out in his dying moments that this mistrust that he's had in children ever since then was misplaced because they were trying to help, they just didn't know how. And they were all there to greet him and take him on into the afterlife, and he could once again protect them and take care of them in the afterlife, and it was really beautiful and very emotional. Okay, I'm just gonna throw out there that the top 3, one of them has already been animated, and it took me at least a week to fully recover from it. The other 2, I don't know how I'm gonna handle those being animated because I'm gonna have to schedule a vacation afterwards. And I will also say that these 3 are kind of interchangeable in my opinion, especially because 2 of them haven't been animated yet, and I think that these emotional scenes get 10 times more emotional when they are animated because of the music and the voice acting. So the fact that 2 out of the 3 of these are manga, that's why I'm putting them 1, 2, is because I think when they get animated, they will very much surpass what I have listed as number 3. And number 3 is Nezuko conquering the sun and Tanjiro thinking that his sister is dead. I know quite a few people who didn't cry over this. I did not cry over it in the manga because it happened so quickly. You couldn't even really process what was going on before you figured out that she had survived. And there was a little bit more of, since it happened so fast, you didn't really believe that she was gone. You kind of were like, there's no way, she's gonna get out of it or something's going to happen to help. But in the anime, they add the flashbacks. They add Nezuko Kamado no Uta, and Natsuki Hanai's voice acting of Tanjiro is like top 1 anime voice acting of all time to me. All of that together made that scene that at first was more shocking than anything else and confusing, and then, oh, okay, cool. It became the most emotional moment of the anime so far for me, and that still stands. Yes, after the first Infinity Castle movie has come out, where I have cried multiple times, this one is still the most emotional moment for me. And it's mostly because since I love Tanjiro so much, the thought of him having to go after Hantengu with the full belief that his sister is gone and everything that he has fought for, every reason that he is there, where he's at now, being a demon slayer, taking on these demons, is all to turn her back into a human, and he now has to go and behead this demon with the thought that all of those goals are now gone, and everything that he has had left that he's been able to hang on to, some little bit of semblance of his previous life that keeps him sane, in my opinion, is now gone. That is just so emotional. In the anime as well, the line where he says, turning Nezuko back into a human is the reason I went this far, as he sobs on his hands and knees, that was an anime original line as well. And once again, just the delivery of the voice acting where it's just completely overtaken by sobs. I sometimes watch Demon Slayer when I'm on the treadmill at the gym, and if I get to that episode, I know I can't watch it at the gym because I will be on the treadmill sobbing and people will be worried about me. Tanjiro and Nezuko is the heart of Demon Slayer, and in that moment, Tanjiro genuinely thinks that she is gone, and there is the question of what would he have done afterwards? What was he going to be able to do? Was he going to give up? Was he going to become more vengeful? We don't know, but that whole situation, and even the happy tears of him seeing her there and him crying over the fact that she's alive, the emotions just continue. The reason this scene makes me so emotional is not just the pain and anguish of thinking that Nezuko is gone and watching Tanjiro go through those emotions. It's also the complete joy of knowing that she is okay and watching Tanjiro realize that his sister has not died. Whew, okay, I need to stop talking about it because, whoo, man. Okay, but with that being said, the next two we have not seen animated yet, and again I will add, check on me, please. Number 2 is Genya and Muichiro's deaths. So, opposite of the last one, where we go through a range of emotions and we end up feeling joy and happy tears at the end because Tanjiro got his sister back, Sanemi does not get his brother back. And I'm just gonna say it now, the parallels between Tanjiro hanging on to his sister for dear life as she starts to fade away, and Sanemi hanging on to his brother for dear life while he starts to fade away. One of them got their sibling back, the other did not. Anyway, sibling angst really gets me. I grew up very close with my sisters, so whenever a story really focuses in on siblings and their love for each other, I get very emotional. And then you add to it that in this moment with Genya doesn't come back. This is it. Genya is gone. And Sanemi has kept his distance because he thought that was what he needed to do to keep Genya safe, and it turns out his distance is the reason why Genya ends up dying, because if he hadn't kept his distance, Genya might not have joined the Demon Slayer Corps. He only joined the Demon Slayer Corps because he felt it was the only way to talk to his brother who was keeping his distance. They're so doomed. It makes me so emotional. And then you have Muichiro in the same chapter meet his brother. His brother tells him he's too young. He has probably the most horrific death of everyone in the story, and he is 14 years old. And it is back to back in the same chapter. This is what I mean when I say maybe I don't want the second movie to ever come out. Every person that I talk to that has watched Demon Slayer and read the manga, and they've been like, oh, none of it really made me that emotional, that makes them emotional. There's something about chapter 179. Chapter 179. 179 will go down in infamy as the Demon Slayer chapter of pain. Just pain. So with that, we're going to talk about number 1, and I'm going to remind everyone that number 1 and number 2, and technically number 3, they're all very interchangeable. They all are breaking the scale of making me sob. We'll see once these are animated if this one makes me as emotional as my number 2. They might flip-flop, but my number 1 is Inosuke saying, "I can't do it, Tanjiro." How mean it is for Gotoge to write this in a way where we first think that we have lost Tanjiro. It seems that he really is dead. To bring him back as a demon, I have so many thoughts on that because a lot of people don't like the way the story turned. I absolutely loved this turn of the story. I spent most of my time watching the anime and then reading the manga leading up to this, thinking that Tanjiro being turned into a demon would be a great way for the story to go. When I think of this scene, I think about how Tanjiro and Inosuke, when they met throwing hands with each other, quite literally. The very first interaction that they ever had, like true interaction, was them fist fighting each other. And Inosuke at this time is obsessed with just fighting. That's all he wants to do. He wants to fight, he wants to fight, he wants to fight, he wants to fight. And Tanjiro's telling him, no, we can't fight, we're both demon slayers, that's wrong. And they're still fighting each other, they're still fist fighting. But once they finish that fight, Inosuke is still obsessed with it, and he continues to be very obsessed with the idea of making sure he's stronger than Tanjiro and being the leader and still wanting to fight for the fun of it. In this moment, Inosuke not only can fight Tanjiro, he should, because if he doesn't, he will die by Tanjiro. But because he has gone through the development that has been brought on a lot by Tanjiro, he in this moment would rather die by his hand than fight him. And yeah. Inosuke and Tanjiro are one of my favorite duos. They're my favorite character, my third favorite character. It's already emotional, like this whole entire sequence, like Gyu crying over Tanjiro, thinking that Tanjiro has died, and then Gyu having to completely switch into, oh no, I have to kill Tanjiro now because I don't want him to go to hell before he kills anyone. Because Gyu is acting in a way where he believes he needs to kill Tanjiro so that Tanjiro doesn't go to hell. He's not fighting to save Tanjiro. He can't. He thinks the only options are Tanjiro gets killed after he kills someone and goes to hell, or Tanjiro gets killed before he kills someone else and can go to heaven, right? Like that's Gyu's thought process. He doesn't think there's any way we can save him. He doesn't think that Tanjiro can really control himself like Nezuko did, and it doesn't seem like he could. And there's a moment in the manga that I didn't realize, it's a very small panel, where Gyu has to stab Tanjiro like through the chest or whatever to try and keep him in the sun before he realizes that Tanjiro is already immune to the sun. And Gyu is just like, there's a waterfall of tears coming out of his face as he has to do this because he doesn't want to. He's spent the entire battle wanting to protect Tanjiro, and that's been his main goal. And now not only can he not protect him, he now is like in charge of having to kill him because Sanemi's out, all the other Hashiras are dead. Like he's all that's left when he's the one who cares the most about Tanjiro. Anyway, that whole sequence is emotional, and then you add to it that Inosuke is like, no, I'll take him down, and then he looks him in the face and he's reminded of how they're like brothers and that Tanjiro shares his food with him, and it's like a full circle moment. Golly, I'm not ready. These final two movies are going to wreck me. I don't know how I'm gonna get through them because the first one was really sad, but I already knew the first one was not gonna be as emotional for me because the big moments are in the next two, and I'm gonna be a basket case. I'm gonna be an absolute basket case. So there you have it. There's my top 5 and honorable mentions. There are so many more emotional moments that I've cried so many times during this anime, even just when Tanjiro awakens Hino Kamikagura. I'm like, but those are the big ones that I needed a minute when I read. I'll need a few days when I see some of those animated because bro. So let me know what your top 5 most emotional moments are in Demon Slayer in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. And I will see you in the next one. Mata ne.